Hey, what's up guys? Today I am doing my July wrap up and there's a couple books I will not be talking about in this video. There's one that I read for a vlog that will be upcoming at some point soon, and then I read 3 books by H.G. Wells which I made a separate video for, so if you're interested in some classic sci-fi and if you want to find out if you'll be interested in these books that I read, I'll have that linked in the description, so go and check that one out after this video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and please subscribe, and let's get started talking about the first book. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is The Art of Happiness, which is by the Dalai Lama and also a man called Howard Cutler. However, the book is actually by Howard Cutler, it's not really by the Dalai Lama. That is like false advertising in my opinion. I expected this to be a little bit of like a history to the Dalai Lama's life and then also just some teachings, so a mix of like self-help with biography, and in reality it's pretty much all self-help, and it's written by Howard Cutler based on conversations that he had with the Dalai Lama, and it's just not what I wanted at all. I felt honestly like I'd been misled into reading it. Like once it started and I realised that's what it just wasn't that interesting. The teachings that I took away from it, honestly, like were nothing special. Like if you know the basics of like Buddhism and stuff, you know exactly what's going to be said in this book. It doesn't really go into like a lot of depth, to be honest, or into like any really interesting information in my opinion. And I thought that Howard Cutler was kind of annoying. I didn't like, obviously it wasn't actually him that narrated the book, but the narrator annoyed me because of the way, just the words he was saying and stuff. And then the Dalai Lama would say stuff and then Howard Cutler would like probe the Dalai Lama to like expand on things and like try and challenge him a little bit, which is a good thing because you want like his views to be challenged so that he can then go into a greater depth. But the way that he done it was honestly just annoying, and like you could feel the Dalai Lama like rolling his eyes at times through the page, or I listened to an audiobook. But yeah, I just did not like this at all. I gave it 2 stars, but to be honest, I probably should have given it 1 star because there's like no redeeming qualities at all. So next, as you guys know, I've been a little bit obsessed with Sylvia Plath recently, so I read another collection of her poems. This one was called Winter Trees, and I didn't even know this one existed until I was like doing a deep dive into her work and stuff, because no one ever talks about this one. Everyone talks about the Colossus and Ariel, but this was published after her death as well, using other poems that just weren't included in Ariel. And I actually enjoyed this one more than Ariel. I think I'll have to reread Ariel at some point after I finish like all 4 collections and like give my full thoughts. But I really enjoyed Winter Trees. They were super dark and they went into a lot of depth on motherhood and, you know, giving birth and abortions and the stress of being a mother, and just a lot of topics revolving around that type of stuff, which I thought was really interesting. Some of my favourite poems were called Childless Women, Lesbos, and Three Women. Three Women was like a really long like radio play type thing where it's like 3 different women all going through different things. Like one of them's had a miscarriage, I believe, one of them's giving birth, and then one of them is having an abortion, I believe. My mind is like a little bit blank right now, but I actually really enjoyed this collection a lot. And I also read a collection of Sylvia Plath children's stories. There was 3 stories in it, and all 3 of them were written in like a different manner of prose, which I thought was really interesting, and I would highly recommend it if you are interested in Sylvia Plath's work, because again, this is another thing that people don't really speak about. She did have quite a few children's stories, and I really enjoyed all of them. I read them like super fast, obviously. I think the full book was like 60 pages. I think each story was like 20 pages each, and there's also illustrations. But yeah, I really enjoyed these, and I cannot wait to read more of her work. I have 2 more collections left, one of them being the Colossus. I think I'm going to leave that one till last, since that's the one that she published while she was alive. I think it would be nice to like go back to that one. But yeah, loving Sylvia Plath as always. So next, I finally read Call Me By Your Name, and I really love this for the most part. My thoughts for the book though are split into 2. So around the last 100 pages, the 2 characters, Elio and Oliver, go to Rome, and everything before Rome, absolutely loved it, 5 stars, like obsessed. Rome itself, I felt like the dynamics switched a little bit and there was too much focus on side characters and not enough focus on their relationship. And I know it all led to like a greater point, but I just felt like it detracted a little bit from my enjoyment. I still give the book 5 stars overall, but the Rome section, I felt like, I don't know, it just changed the mood. And then the section at the very end, which is like flash forwards, I really didn't like, but because I loved the first over half of the book so much, I still give the book 5 stars overall. But I think that if I reread this book, I'm not going to read the ending, which is like flash forwards, because it was honestly so unnecessarily depressing, and I just like did not love it. I don't know, like it made sense, but I just thought it was like kind of pathetically sad and depressing. I don't know, I just didn't vibe with it. But overall, I did give the book 5 stars. I really loved it. I loved the prose. I know a lot of people maybe don't love it because it's like quite flowery at times, and purple prose I think is the term people use, but I really loved it. I loved the descriptions. I thought it was so romantic. I loved like the toxicity of it as well, which obviously in real life we don't support that, but in fictional relationships I love like deep, like obsessive, like toxic love, like the type where you will literally kill someone like for the love of their relationship and for the romance. And oh, there was this one quote where Elio was talking about how he like wants to cripple Oliver so that Oliver like depends on Elio and stuff, and it's like so dark and toxic, and in real life you'd obviously be like, oh my god, that's psychotic. But in fiction, I don't know, I just love it. I think it's fun and romantic. So yeah, I really enjoyed Call Me By Your Name for the most part, but to be honest, in my mind, the book finishes before the like flash forwards in time. Like the book ends at that point, and if I do read it, which I definitely probably will, I'm not going to read that last section. Next, I read a 2-part graphic novel series called Avril Lavigne's Make 5 Wishes, and this was really interesting to me because I'm pretty sure that I read this like over a decade ago, because I have always been an Avril Lavigne stan. Like I love Avril Lavigne. She was like the first person whose music I remember listening to and stuff like that, and I'm pretty sure I read this before, but it basically follows this girl who one day online, she doesn't have any friends or anything, she's like very mentally unwell, she's very, very depressed. She comes across a website where she gets sent like a mystery package, and then when it comes, it's this little like demon type thing that can grant 5 wishes. And then obviously, like all these stories, the wishes that she makes turn things worse, and like it's never the intended effect. And this got so dark. Like I was really surprised how dark this story was. Like first of all, the main character was super depressed, and to be honest, I know that I don't know how to really phrase this in a nice way, but even though she was depressed and stuff, I don't think she was a likable person even beyond that. Like I think that if she was herself but not mentally unwell, she still wouldn't have been a nice person. Just the stuff that she did to like people in her school and things like that, she was just not nice at all. And I guess you can kind of not excuse it because of mental illness, but it makes sense. But yeah, I just thought that she was not nice, but that's actually kind of fun for me. I like unlikable characters. I like following their journey and like seeing if they change and stuff like that. So that was fun. But then like just the ending of this series, I mean, and it's only 2 books, but it was just like so twisted and dark, and it went to like such an extreme that I didn't expect for like a young adult graphic novel series. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it actually. I was surprised at like the places it went, and I think the Avril Lavigne influence on it was quite minimal. Like she was basically only in it as like the girl Hannah's imaginary friend, and I think it made sense. Like it was fun. I feel like the story could have completely existed without Avril Lavigne. It could have just been like a fictional pop star, but I don't know, it just like was a little bit extra fun, the fact it was Avril Lavigne. So yeah, I would recommend this, I guess. I mean, it's not like anything amazing, it's not gonna blow you away, but if you're an Avril Lavigne fan, it's definitely worth checking out. And if you come across it somewhere like, I don't know, second hand, I genuinely think it was like a fun little read. I finished both books though in the space of like less than an hour for sure. They're not like super short, but obviously graphic novels are like, I don't know, you read them fast. So yeah, this was a like little fun experiment. No experiment, I don't know, I just like genuinely, I'm sure I read it in the past, but I just could not remember a single thing about it, and I was so shook at the ending. I also read a self-published book this month called Samuel Noeck, and this is by Caitlin Bolton, who is a fellow booktuber, and she has a channel called Mad Cheshire Rabbit, I think. I don't know, it'll be linked down below. Anyway, she's also Scottish, and she's really fun, and she makes really interesting videos about classics mostly and stuff, so obviously, you know, I love that. And I was so impressed with this. So this is her debut novel, and I listened to an audiobook. She gave me a link to listen to it for free, and I don't know if she still is, but for a while she was like giving people that comment on the videos free links to listen to it. So I would highly recommend going to her channel, watching her videos, and checking out her audiobook if she's still doing that. And even if she's not giving it out for free, I think this is definitely worth an Audible credit or paying for it. Like I'm obviously to read physically. I was so impressed with this. So it's a historical novel, or a historical fiction, sorry. about this man, Samuel Noeck, and you follow him from like an early childhood up through, you know, World War One, marriage, having kids, like going through a lot of like mental health issues and trauma from the war. And she put so many issues, like poverty as well, like she got so many issues into this book, but without making it seem over the top or, you know, like trauma porn. Like, I was so impressed by this, especially for it being a debut novel and self-published. It was edited perfectionly, I would say. I mean, obviously I was listening, so it's like a bit different experience, but like I just was so impressed by like the flow of everything and like the characters. They were all so interesting and so well realized. There was so much depth. There was an amazing found family as well, which I know a lot of people love. I love a found family. Samuel's like best friend basically becomes his brother, and like his parents, like the friend's parents, then become Samuel's parents because Samuel's father is like very abusive and stuff. So I don't know, I just thought there was so many elements to this story, and I was so impressed by the way that Caitlin brought everything together, and I cannot wait to read what else she writes next because this was an amazing debut. I also read The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness this month, and this was the first Patrick Ness book I've ever read, and I was really, really impressed by it. I definitely want to read more by him. I've always been interested in The Knife of Never Letting Go, but I know he has like so many other books, so I'll definitely be checking them out. This one is about a group of kids who are in a world where every so often huge, like basically the events that take place in YA novels take place, but they're not the main characters. So at the start of every chapter, there's like a little snippet of what they call them, the indie kids, what they're doing to basically try and solve like this whole world changing event. Like sometimes it's zombies, sometimes it's like vampires, like I don't know, just stuff like that. And then that's all happening in like the background of this novel, and the way that that story interconnects with the very normal and realistic life of our main characters, I thought it was handled so well. Like, it's hard to explain, and when before I started it, I didn't really know how it was going to work. Like, I knew the premise, and I was like, this really, really intrigues me, but I just genuinely didn't know how it would work. But Patrick Ness does it so well, and I really just loved how he interconnected, like, this world-changing event with, like, the very real issues of, like, our main characters. Some of them have, like, one has OCD, there's one with an eating disorder, they're all just trying to graduate high school, they're having, like, relationship issues, like, they're a friend group, but there's also like romantic relationships going on within the friend group, so obviously it changes the dynamic of the friend group and stuff like that. And one of the characters is gay, so there's like some stuff with that going on. And I just thought that the way that he made everything work and like this kind of strange premise was really, really impressive, and I really enjoyed it. I liked the dialogue as well. I really liked all the characters. I thought they were well fleshed out and quite fun and realistic. They were like a fun friend group to follow. And like the dialogue was really interesting to me. I thought that it was quite realistic, which was weird because then I was on Goodreads. After I finish a book, I normally read some Goodreads reviews, especially if it's a 5-star book for me, which this one was. I like reading the 1-star reviews, and people were saying the dialogue was like so unrealistic, but I thought it was kind of, I don't know, I thought it was realistic. So it just kind of proves that you can't really trust anyone else's opinion apart from your own. But yeah, I just really thought this was super fun. And like I said, it's quite a weird book to try and describe. Just like the premise of obviously like our main characters aren't like the main characters of like the story going on in their world. I don't know. I just thought it was really fun, and if you've ever been interested in it, I would recommend checking it out. Another book that I read this month is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin, and my relationship with Le Guin is so sad the way it's developed, because last year she was one of my favourite authors. Like, she was a brand new author I discovered at the start of 2020, and I was just obsessed with her work. I wanted to read everything. I thought all of her premises sounded so good. And then like this year, everything I've read by her has just been like so not interesting, to be honest. This one is about a human-ish man, basically human, who is on this other planet, getting like political allies and trying to make this planet join like the overall, what would you call it? Basically the EU of space, like the European Union of space. And on this planet, which is like what this book is most known for, all of the inhabitants aren't either male or female. They're all genderless and like sexless, and they only grow like sexual organs to then procreate, but it happens randomly. Like 1 year, like they go for like mating seasons, so 1 year like someone could then have a male body parts, and the next year someone could have female body parts. And that's like the thing of this novel that is like most well known. And this is like really highly acclaimed, so I had like such high expectations, but I just thought it was so boring. I thought the actual storyline of like all the political stuff just wasn't interesting at all, to be honest. I thought the writing was super dry. And then later on, there's a whole section where our two main characters are trying to make it across like this barren wasteland of ice, which this planet is like super frozen. It's like basically all just like frozen icelands apart from like the cities. And I just thought it was kind of boring again. Like, we're just watching these two main characters just traveling across these landscapes of ice. And I thought that Le Guin's writing got a little bit more interesting in these sections, even though the actual story was boring. Just the way that she described all of these different locations, which are all technically kind of the same. They're just like barren wastelands of ice, but she made each of them have like their own characteristics and stuff. So I thought that part was interesting. But in terms of the gender thing, I just thought that it wasn't well realised. And like, to be fair, this book was written in it was released in 1969, I believe. So for its time, it was very cutting edge, but now it just isn't fully realised. I don't think it was well executed at all. It's such an interesting premise, but like the way that gender influences like their society and stuff, it just isn't fully realised at all. And then also like our main character, who's like the human that's visiting, he refers to everyone there with like he pronouns, like male pronouns. And I just like think it was a kind of weird decision. I don't know. I mean, if it was written today, obviously it would probably be like they, them pronouns, which would then make you like focus more on like the gendered aspects of it. But because Le Guin's using like he, him pronouns for everyone, you honestly do just kind of forget that it's meant to be like non-gendered, and you just in your head think of these people as all being male. I don't know, it was just like a weird decision, and I guess it's probably because of the time period and stuff, but I just thought that it's like such a good idea, but the execution is just like not there. And then the final book I'm going to talk about in this video was The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. And this is like such a hugely popular novel that I just have never got to. I've never seen the film either. And I really want to see the film, especially now that I've read it. But this was way more depressing and stuff than I thought it would be. I thought this was kind of like a dark comedy type book and novel, or movie, sorry, where it's like, yeah, the characters are depressed, but it's like kind of got like a comedy aspect to it. No, this is just straight like depression vibes, but I really loved it. So we are following Charlie, who is a very socially awkward. I think I read him as being autistic. It's never fully stated. There's like hints and stuff to whether he is autistic or not. I think that he was, and I read it that way, but it's obviously everyone's interpretation will be different. And we're basically just following him, trying to make friends and trying to enter like romantic relationships, and just going through a lot of different stuff with his own mental health and his family and like this friend group that he makes who are all older than him. So there's like a weird kind of dynamic where it's like at times they're being good friends and at other times it feels like they're kind of taking advantage of him a little bit. And it's a really interesting novel, and it's written in the form of letters from Charlie to an anonymous person that we don't know about. And I thought this writing style was effective for the story, because obviously Charlie is, like I said, he may be autistic, definitely you know, socially awkward, and he definitely processes like all the events going on around him in like kind of a strange way at times. So the writing style of it being letters from him, it means that the writing and stuff is quite simple, and he keeps like terms and like descriptions and stuff to being quite simple. So he doesn't go into a lot of depth on people's emotions. He just says like he was happy, he was sad, she was crying, that type of stuff. Which I know when I was reading, again, reviews afterwards, some people really had an issue with that, but I thought it was quite effective just because of who Charlie was as a character and just the way that he processes like the world and stuff. And this book handles a lot of like serious issues, like basically any content warning you could ever think of is in this book. Like there's sexual assault, drug abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, homophobia, eating disorders, maybe, I can't remember, like definitely depression. Basically anything you can think about is touched on in this book, which seems overwhelming and like it's too much, but the way everything is handled, I thought it was done quite well. It never goes into a lot of depth on stuff. It's basically just like Charlie encountering all these things and processing them and thinking about them, and it just makes you think about all these different issues as well, which I appreciated. I thought it was really interesting. So I super enjoyed this book. I would definitely say though, go into it in like the right headspace and definitely know what you're getting yourself into. Like I said, I thought it was a I thought it was gonna be a comedy type book. I thought it was gonna be like a dark comedy, and it's not comedy. Like, it's really depressing, and there was a couple times where I was reading it, I was like, this is really heavy for like my my vibe right now, but I thought it was really cool and really interesting, and I definitely need to watch the movie. So if you have read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts on it, especially if you really enjoyed The Left Hand of Darkness, for example. Please let me know what you loved about it, because I feel like I'm really just missing out, and I don't know, I wanted to love it. I like went into it wanting it to be a 5-star book, and it just wasn't, so that was kind of sad. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, obviously leave your thoughts down below, and if you've not subscribed before, hit the subscribe button for more bookish videos and etc. other videos as well, and I'll see you in my next one.